I don't know. I think that they do as much as they can to keep you from seeing.
They have so many secrets or
little bits
specialized.
and bobs.
This
Yeah.
one, I mean, this one
Part of
was
me just
supposed
wants to expose the secrets so they don't have them anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think they're meaningful.
No, I like the chain guide thing on this one. Like
The
underneath.
dinner plate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks
All
cool.
right. Oh, we should probably start letting people know that we're recording. This is the Pinkbike podcast. If you just tuned in, we're talking about Specialized new-ish version of the demo bike. We'll get into that in a bit. But first, I have to let you know that it's me, Mike Asmer, here with Dario DiGiulio, Stefan Pelletier.
Hello.
And we also have producer Eric in the background. He might chime in once in a while.
Hello.
Our producer, Eric.
Yeah. So race week is coming up. By the time you're listening to this, qualifying is going to be happening shortly for the first round of the Downhill World Cup in Poland. We're very excited to have downhill racing happening again. It feels like it's been many, many months.
Mm-hmm. And Enduro just started. So
Yes.
we've got one round of Enduro down. And it was kind of cool. Pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Enduro's
We're back, baby.
You know? Yeah. It's alive.
Yeah. It seemed like there was some excitement around it. Like, we can start with the Enduro talk because they did 2 days of big racing this year, where in years past they had just one day, or sometimes they had a little preliminary stage. Like one day was one stage and the next day would be a big day. But now we had 2 big days of racing and the racers seemed legitimately tired, which I liked.
Yeah. People were smoked and were like excited about the course and the amount of riding they had to do. I think that that's the biggest difference. It's like, it's a huge weekend again, which is sick.
And I watched one of the helmet cams from Jack Marr, and I just kept thinking the stage was going to be over, and it kept going and going. And
yeah,
it was like
I bet they're thinking that too. They're like, oh my God, this is still going.
Yeah.
It looked cool. I mean, crazy weather and like super tight racing the whole way through. I think it came down to the very last stage as to like, you know, I mean, it obviously always does, but like it was tight until the very last stage.
Yeah. Dan Booker won for the men on flat pedals.
So cool.
Yeah. So sick. I love that guy's style.
Me too. It's crazy that he's like as stylish as he is and also can pull out a win like that. Like that's the most impressive thing to me is he's like,
he's
doing it all.
Competing hardline. Like he's a hardline competitor that just won an Enduro World Cup. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's a couple guys on the Enduro circuit that are extremely stylish and also extremely fast.
Yeah.
Not to like downplay for other riders, but Dan Booker is up there for one of my favorite to watch.
No doubt.
So sick, super sick to see him come out with the win.
Yeah, and he was one of those guys that I remember we did a little interview with him in 2023 where because during COVID, he was discovered kind of by Sam Hill before COVID. I remember even hearing his name, where you know Sam Hill has this new protege or whatever, and then COVID happened, and he just kind of like went off grid for a year. No one heard from him. He was just in Tasmania. He's from Tasmania, and then now that things are normal, and you know in the years since, he's obviously still been riding, getting faster and faster. And I feel like now he's kind of like he's on the radar of a lot of people now.
Well, and I think he was supposed to be on that nuke proof team right before they folded. Mm-hmm. So I think he got kind of screwed over by some like industry changes. But now that he's with Santa Cruz and SRAM, it seems like he's on a pretty pro program. So
yeah, although he's still technically a privateer.
Oh, really?
I think he's a privateer because he's not.
Yeah, I guess Santa Cruz doesn't really have like an enduro team.
Yeah, he's sponsored, but it's a little kind of gray area. But yeah,
maybe not for long. Maybe this is the year he gets on the factory program.
Oh shit, we gotta pick it up.
I think so.
I guess like it's go ahead.
Also, I was just gonna say it's crazy, like these people that grow up with these bike parks, next to their house, and sure enough, it
turns out you get really good.
Working. Yeah, like Gracie, Dan Booker. I'm sure there's tons of other examples. Jackson is a good example.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty crazy. I feel like we should probably touch on the like bikes at the Enduro because
we should. I was going to say
crazy array of what people were racing.
Well, we need to talk about Hattie's bike that she won on for the women.
Yeah, dude.
Hattie Harden. It's the first belt drive bike to win an Enduro World Cup. So,
does that count?
Not for the 100. Does that count
for the
belted purse? No, I looked at it's for DH only.
Yeah. But she's racing downhill this coming weekend, so there's a chance she's probably be if I had to put money on any of the racers that have the potential to win downhill World Cup, it'd be her.
Yeah.
So, but she was on a Nikolai backpack because you can't hold a water bottle in the Nikolai. She had a very loud kit, like bright green,
super bright green. Yeah.
It just looked so different from your normal like Enduro setup, and then she's just crushing it.
Yeah. She's got the backwards fork. She's got like, very much the funky setup, but clearly it worked. She was like well ahead the entire time.
Yeah, Manitou. She's running a Mezzer on that bike.
Yep. Yeah.
That'd be wild if the first downhill race we got the belted purse out of the way.
I know.
And Gates would just be like, damn it. All right. Well, we did it.
Yeah, I know. It was out there last year, but I feel like no one was really trying for it. And now this year it's like all these top teams are gunning for it and nothing came to fruition yet. But I thought it was cool to see. I mean, obviously this year's Enduro is focusing a bit more on fitness than like just racing downhill courses on single crown bikes. And it seems like a lot of the teams are transitioning to riding more trail-ish bikes than in the past. That said, it's still like a pretty even split down the field. But
yeah, I think we're not seeing quite the they're not full-on trail bikes. Like they're not 140 bikes, but or Dan Booker won on that Santa Cruz Bronson with it's a 150 rear travel. I think he had a 170 Zeb on it, but that's kind of the setup. I mean, remember how many years Richie Rude won with the Yeti SB 150 with a 170 fork on it, and sometimes even a 180 fork. Like we've kind of seen that in Enduro where they go with a big fork and then a little bit shorter travel. Kind of helps, if you're tired and smashing things, you get the fork to take the initial blow, but then the bike feels a little sportier with the less travel.
Yeah, it was funny. You saw when you saw looking at fork as the defining factor, it was like half 36s, half 38s, and then you saw like the Yeti team had that upside down fork on their bike. So pretty wide array there.
I always wonder if the bigger travel bikes just feel slower or if they're actually slower. Because like you ride a kind of shorter travel trail bike and you feel like you're going so fast. But is that just the bike is squirrelier? So I think
that's a big part of it. Yeah, you're just like a little more scared, and so you have higher perceived speed.
But for the sprints, though, like I think you do get a little bit of advantage with the shorter travel. Just like if you get to put the power down, you're not like sinking as deep into it. But yeah,
and there was a decent bit of climbing on the course, like in stages, not just like to get up to the stage.
Yeah. So what bikes did you see out there, Dario?
I mean, honestly, like it doesn't seem like anyone's transitioning away from like the model that they were racing. Like the only one I noticed was Marco Osborne is not racing a Spire. He's racing a Sentinel with like a long fork. But then like the Yeti guys are still on the SB 160. All the Specialized team is still on the Stumpy, which is like maybe more what people are heading towards as a race bike for these things. And then like YT is still racing the Capra. I think a lot of people are sticking with what they know, but like changing components to maybe increase speed. So like tires or drivetrain, just like little things to like take some weight off.
Yeah. Looks like there might have been a prototype Capra in there. One of them was on an alloy bike, which I wouldn't be surprised if they're tweaking the geometry of that. If we've seen the YT team riders doing all kinds of things with different chainstay lengths and, take the chainstay from the large bike and put it on the medium and that type of thing. So I think there might have been a prototype Capra floating around, which would make sense because that bike's kind of due for some sort of revision. It's been a few years.
Yeah, I think that was on our like list of expected updates this year.
Yeah, it really doesn't need much. That's a good bike, but like a tiny bit longer. Nothing crazy, but it does run a little short. So even they could almost even add a size in there and probably be fine. But interesting to see what happens.
Do you think in general bikes are like pretty plateaued? Like,
I think I don't know. I mean, it depends on the brand. I think like some people have arrived at like a pretty good formula, but then others are a little bit behind in terms of scaling things.
But it's pretty good. I mean, I think, I was dealing with dealing is the right word. I was dealing with our online deals article, just kind of like sorting that out and, going through and seeing all the things that are on sale and what are the good deals. And then looking back at, bikes from 2022, like, oh, that's a really good bike. I think the Rocky Mountain Altitude was on there and that's the previous gen. And that bike was really good.
Bike.
Like you had
My
that
buddy rides one all the time. And
it's like 3-4 years old, but it's a great, might not be your full-on enduro race bike like it was billed as, but that's a really good bike and the geometry is sorted. So I think in the last 4 years or so, we're at a good place.
Yeah, I think even updates now that when you see them, it's like half a degree here, a couple mils that here and there. It's not like major changes. It's like down tube storage or I guess some brands are experimenting with the reach versus stack number. Is there a number for that? What are we calling that?
What do you mean?
I don't know if there's actually like the equate like a proportion of that.
Like the hypotenuse of
hypotenuse. I mean, some people call it like the rider area, or I just like calling it like
trail. Does someone call it the trail?
No, trail is like
that's a different
offset. Yeah. I like the idea of just like reach and stack, and you can think of them as two separate numbers. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I bought a 2007 Iron Horse Sunday last night, and
okay,
that bike is still sick. Like,
no, Darios teasing me. He sends me this bike on the buy and sell, and then he buys it and gives it to someone else.
No, I'm not giving it away. I'm gonna ride it at Whistler next week.
Oh, you are? Oh,
that's got to be like the number one
Whistler
dream bike for almost everyone.
Dude, I got such a good deal on it too.
I think I must have not known what he had.
No, and he knew what he had, but he was like, "Yeah, it's my old downhill bike." I'm pretty sure he thought it was going to be my first mountain bike, which was awesome.
That's cute.
He's like, "Yeah, this should be like a good starter for you. Like, let me know if you have any questions about how to set it up. Like, I've got some of these parts." Like, he handed me a bunch of disc rotors, and I was like, "Oh, I'm good, thank you." Like, it was
you
sweet.
bamboozled him.
I didn't bamboozle him. I just didn't explain why I wanted it.
Yeah, you don't need to overpay. Yeah, it's trying to get a deal.
Oh, you're Dario? Okay, you got to pay more.
Yeah.
Well, no, he had no clue. It was great. So I'm gonna spruce it up a bit, and then Mike, we can take it up to Whistler.
Yeah, your fleet is growing. We're gonna have some old clapped out bikes this year.
I will say, like, jumping on the Sunday versus the 99 Stab is a remarkably better bike.
Yeah, there was a good. Yeah, that's a big switch.
That was a big growth period for mountain biking. So a good education there. But then, if I hopped on a 2025 demo, I'd be pretty stoked. I'm sure.
Yeah,
which is a great segue into. Great job, me.
Look at you segueing right into. Yeah, we can talk about some downhill tech because now that the Enduro first round of the Enduro wrapped up, and now we're heading into World Cup downhill. So if you haven't, I have to shameless plug again. Get your fantasy team going. If by the time you listen to this, I think you have a few hours left probably. So get your fantasy team rolling so you can compete.
I got to do mine.
Glory. Yeah, Dario.
It's fun, and you can win $5,000, and $5,000 gets donated to Grow Cycling if you win. So it's just good. It's good fun. I love doing it. I've been doing it for years. So
yeah, it's great. We can't win, but we can just have office glory.
Yeah.
Damn.
Wait, I'm still aiming to consistently be the worst of all the bike staff.
Don't we have an internal comp, and Brian's going to have some sort of prize for the office winner?
Maybe he'll make us a cup of fancy coffee from.
Depends on who the winner is. If it's him, then we go karting or something.
I want something 3D printed. If I
yeah, that's what it should be. You should 3D print us a cool prize, a little gold star or something.
Yeah.
I guess we could do it. Well, yeah. There's still time. So yeah, who's your pick? Who's going to win the men and women first round? Put you all on the spot. We'll start with you, Stefan.
I think Jackson's going to win. I would love to see Jackson win. Kind of like comeback win, and he's actually a really good deal on fantasy because he was out last year. So I think
everyone's top pick is going to be him just from the value right now. But
yeah, for sure. But also, I don't know. I love watching him ride. I think it'd be awesome. For the women, I'd love to see Tawny win. I don't know.
New bike.
I feel like she's been new bike. I haven't really seen much lately, but yeah, I feel like she was looking fast at the end of last year. So.
Yeah, seems good. How about you, Dario?
I'm going to say Hattie's going to win. Why not? She's going to take the belted purse and win the first round. I feel like she just had a huge win at the Enduro. That's like a nice confidence boost that not much of the rest of the field has. And then the men, I mean, odds are high that Jackson does well just because, he's got that hardline win from a couple months ago and, he's quick as fuck. But Lockie, I'm going to say. He was going to win last year, but he crashed like in a weird random spot.
Yeah.
So I think like, I don't know. I was there last year and watching him ride that track, like he was picking up speed everywhere. So cool. So I think new bike for him, which maybe is tricky, but he's high on my list.
Who's he with this year? I forgot already.
Trek. So he's on. Right. We haven't really seen much from Trek on that like new prototype bike that they're working on, but it seems quite adjustable. So like, hopefully it's the kind of thing that they can find a good setup on quickly. I think that's the challenge with some of these like ultra adjustable DH bikes or any bike really. It's like you spend so much time faffing with setup, you don't optimize. You're just like exploring.
Yeah.
So
I feel like too, you just got to like ride something and kind of get used to it at some point.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, by the first race, I think most people have been like off season. There's been all the tinkering, and then they're hopefully able to settle in on that good setup for the first race and just continue it through. There's not a lot of people that go do big changes throughout the season.
Yeah. Kaz, we can't skip you. Who do you have?
I think I'd go full Commensal and just go Omri and Miriam. Just Omri is so fast. Like last year he was crazy fast. But then there's also Ronan. I think he's healthy-ish, right? Ronan's still healthy.
I don't really. Yeah, I mean, he got destroyed at Hardline, but they didn't ever really like.
Is he racing?
Discuss what happened.
Yeah, I need to get out on the Instagram and figure out who's in one piece. But I'd put Omri up there just because he kind of turned back on the ridiculous speed last year. And then I do want to see Jackson do well also. And then I like Benoit too. Like whenever Benoit Boulange gets up there on the podium,
I'm a fan.
That. He's just
he's got his new
riding
bike.
style is cool.
Yeah. His off-season like e-bike jank training has been incredible. Like I would say Benoit is the most worthwhile follow if you don't already follow him. He's like does a lot of weird goofy stuff, plus his like home tracks that he's built are some of the most heinous looking tech contraptions ever.
I do not follow him, and I will do that.
It's worthwhile.
There's also got Loris Vergier, new team for him. So see how he does on Commensal.
Yeah, it's a pretty big change year for Commensal too. They went like full RockShox SRAM for everything, which is a big departure from how it's been for the past few years. So I'm sure they've been doing a ton of off-season training.
I have a little tidbit that I learned at Tennessee Nationals. Apparently, according to the SRAM guys, the Commensal team is the most like crazy with their data, like data acquisition and how they utilize that data. They like spend the most time, effort, and resources dialing that in. So that was a pretty cool, interesting tidbit, and it seems to be working for them.
I would put Specialized up there too, though, because obviously,
for sure,
RockShox doesn't work with them, but like, it's rare that you see one of those demos without like the data acquisition set up on it.
Yeah, it's got that. They run like at least part of the BYB system on there. Like
I think they have their own like sauce that they're plugging it into, though.
Yeah. Just like that's what's acquiring the data, and then they
exactly
their programs.
Yeah. On that note, earlier this week we had that spotted thing up on the demo. We saw that bike initially a couple months ago, the high chainring one, but I think speculation at the time was that it was a gearbox bike, but it seems pretty clear at this point that it's not, which is, I don't know.
Do you think they could have multiple setups roaming around?
It's possible for sure. Like the way that those things are milled, you could kind of plug something into that armature, like where the BB is, but I'm pretty sure they're not using a gearbox just because.
Yeah, I think they want to sell
the way that the linkage is housed in the space there, it wouldn't have room for anything else. Like that under BB, like, I don't know, little dingus link is like, it's pretty big and needs a lot of room to move. And so I think it's mostly housing that in a safer spot on the bike.
Yeah. It's looking good. I mean, all the weight is so low on that bike. It's kind of almost, in the early last year, everyone's saying it's an e-bike, there's a motor in there or something, but because it almost looks like that kind of the mass of an e-bike around the bottom bracket. But anyone that's ridden an e-bike knows how well they corner and how like kind of planted there. I think that's the goal, especially for anything that's descending focus. You want the weight down there, so it looks like the weight's in a great spot. I'd love to ride this thing.
Yeah, it's smart too, because I mean, what I speculated in the piece, it seems like they're moving closer to like something that could be a production bike. That last year's proto was super cool and obviously worked really well, but there was no way that was going to go to market, just because you look at the end of every race, that link under the bottom bracket was so chewed up from hitting rocks and stuff, because it's, as you cycle through the travel, it would like poke out from the bottom bracket. So it's this super susceptible area, and you have this like critical member out there. So I think with this, the packaging is a little tighter, and assuming there's like some sort of production chainring set inside that little enclosed drive area, that's not too dissimilar from what Pivot just did with their Phoenix. So it seems like something you could put to market.
Yeah,
I'm really curious to see if they'll kind of take some of that learning from the downhill bike into an enduro.
That'd be cool, man. Like, with this, you could like,
yeah.
Matt
Beer just finished his review of the Pivot Phoenix, and then so that's used that 2-chain drive system at the front. And I think when he gets back, he's over in Poland. He's gonna be doing some tech coverage for us from the World Cup. But when he gets back, I think he's gonna try to rig that thing up as an enduro bike.
Sick.
Following in the spirit of Milton McConville and his Da Vinci, but a little modern version of that. So that'll be interesting to see. We think it'll work. I'm pretty sure. We'll see.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And like kinematics is normal enough. It's not like too weird on the anti-squat or anything.
put a 180 fork on it and probably be big enduro smasher.
Huh.
But
could Milton like create a whole new classification of bike?
I don't know. I think he's doing his own program. He's not the first to do this. He's not the last, but I'll give him credit.
But he does it well.
He does it well.
It's true. He's like one of the better to do it. Like,
yeah.
The fact that it's also working is kind of a rare.
Yeah, that's what makes it even better. Yeah, if you can.
Yeah,
he is phenomenally talented. So yeah, he's so sick. I love that.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Cool.
That's great. Also,
I've got another quick lukewarm take on World Cup just before we move on. Aletha on the Canyon team, the young rider.
Mm-hmm.
I think she could potentially have the fastest female time overall.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, she was smoking people at Tennessee Nationals and all over the place.
Yeah.
So, like, could be a really exciting time in the women's racing field, but she is not in the elites.
Yeah.
So,
I think it'll be. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a weekend when her and Asa both have the fastest times of the weekend.
Yeah.
Out of the junior category. Like we're a year away from two young guns moving up, and
we haven't really had that since like Jackson, I guess.
Yeah.
Asa had a couple.
That's right.
Did he last year?
He's been really close. I'm not sure if he might have one. It's hard to tell. I mean, also because the juniors do race at different times. There's always the track conditions and all that type of stuff. But
for sure,
there's no doubt that Asa and Aletha are both racing. They're putting down times that are high level, elite level times as juniors, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Going back to that, to switch things back to that Specialized demo, that's got the Specialized brakes on it that we don't know what brand they are, but maybe Brembo was what we were speculating, just because Olin's is owned by Brembo now. So
yeah, it seems likely. There were some clearer shots of those. So for context, like I got all those pictures from a video that Finn put up and then pulled down earlier this week, and in that there's like some really clear shots of the brakes. They look to me like pretty close to finished. There's not anything like too rough. Like they're clearly like stamped or cast parts. They're not CNC'd, so that tends to be like more production spec. They had some funky things with like cables to the rear caliper, especially. I would assume that's feeding into their data acquisition system.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't look like a brake ace or anything like that, so I think it's probably just some sensor that either they made or is part of the BYB kit. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. They look like brakes, but they do look like a bit more finished than I'd previously seen.
Yeah, and people like the Brembo logo just from like race cars and stuff. So I'm sure they can sell a decent amount, especially if they
dirt bikes.
Yeah, dirt bikes too. They know what they're doing. In most cases.
I mean, if anything, it's like knowing how to manufacture at scale is like a huge step up. Like so many little hobbyist manufacturers struggle with that.
I've gotten into riding more dirt bikes in the past year or two, and I mean, it's different. They're way heavier parts, burlier, but I have like you have way less mechanicals. Like in general, everything just kind of works. But they are like super overbuilt. Obviously, biking, you got to get the weight down, but yeah,
but it's a smaller mass to stop, so you'd think, hopefully they can kind of translate some of that durability into a.
I want bigger brakes. I just want bigger, heavier duty brakes. I think.
Have you used Mavens?
I'm mostly run Mavens.
They're not strong
but even
enough?
then, like that Norco site I was riding, I think it has 200, 180 rotors, and it's kind of meant to be like a trail e-bike. But I want like 220, 200, and I don't know, maybe even I'd be curious to try those Magura Gustavs with like the super thick rotor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have those coming tomorrow.
You have those coming
tomorrow? Magura's coming
cool.
By. Yeah, but we'll have a set. We have a big brake test coming up soon. Now that the lifts are starting to run, so we'll have a set of those included in the mix and kind of see. I mean, Henry rode them last year, and he said they were nice and consistent. He didn't say they were crazy powerful though, but it's more the consistency that he was impressed with because of that, in part because of that really thick rotor. And I think the whole system stayed pretty cool. That
was one thing I really noticed when I got on Mavens was for me, I felt like had less arm fatigue because I wasn't having to like pull on the levers so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were. So I don't know. It just felt way better, and like I can really feel on like a steep descent on that e-bike with the smaller rotors. I can start to feel the brakes heat up and kind of start to fade.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that comes down to rider weight. Like you're a decent amount heavier than me, and I find the Mavens
for sure
in a lot of cases are just too much. Where I've downsized rotors, or I'll go to like those centerline rotors. Like I have a Bronson with Mavens on it, and I was running centerline rotors. But
if I can jump in for a second here, actually, Stefan, I'm curious. Have you tried the Dominions? Because that's the ones I've been running lately, and specifically about like not having to pull hard. I found it's crazy how light I can pull. And it feels like cheating. Like I do a lot of slab riding here in Squamish, and I've been able to do like the in and out main line, stop like middle of the line, full stop, just on the front brake, not even touching the rear.
I have ridden those, and they are awesome. I really like my set. I had, after riding them for about 2 years, I just couldn't bleed them to get the bite point right. I don't know. Maybe
they wear out. I think mine.
I've got the sleeper
hit a point where I need to like fully rebuild them, which is.
Yeah, I think that's maybe where mine are at. But for the first year and a half, they were the best brake I'd ridden.
Maven Bass brakes. They're the sleeper that no one knows about yet. The base Maven Bass has a different. It ditches the swing length pivot, so it feels closer to Dominion, like super light lever action, and it's the same. It's a smaller piston, so I think it's two 18 millimeter pistons instead of a 19 and 18, something like that in the Maven. So slightly less power, but the power comes on strong. It's a little bit different. Like it doesn't feel the same as Mavens. You don't kind of get that. Like Mavens, you pull, you can kind of modulate, and then it ramps up. Where the Maven Bass feels like you pull them, you kind of get your stopping power, and it just kind of stays that level. Like obviously, the harder you pull, it will, you can ramp up to a skid. But like the modulation is a little bit different. But so far, they've been really sweet. Like I'm impressed, and they're the cheapest model they make. But I think it's probably one of the better feeling brakes in their lineup. Like it. Yeah. There's a review coming in the next few weeks. I've got a good amount of descending on them already, but I think they accidentally made something better than maybe some of their high-end stuff.
For like certain use cases, especially. I bet.
Yeah, I mean it's plenty.
Can I try them when you're done with them?
Yeah, you can. For a round, you can
try
take my bike. I mean,
they're going to start showing up on bikes.
True.
In short order, I'm sure.
Yeah, like if I was speccing brakes on a bike as a product manager, it'd be an easy way to save some money. And so far, like durability, they do use a bushing in the lever pivot instead of a cartridge bearing, so that's the only thing that'll probably get play a little bit easier, more quickly.
But it's not horrible. Like I've been using those bronze ones, then they use a bushing as well, and I've had those for about a year, and they're still fine. Like they get a bit creaky, but you just drop some like lube in there.
That's about it. And there's no pad contact adjust, but so far, like once you do the silly piston massage and a good bleed, they've been nice. So review coming in the future, but I've been impressed with those. I guess that could be my show and tell. The Maven Bass, they're worth a look for people that want something that's like almost like super, super close to Maven power, but a really light lever feel. Just like it feels good. It's like one of those brakes. If you tell someone to grab the brakes in your bike, like, oh, those feel good.
I love that. I love hearing about that because I would love to see more kind of like shred ready out of the box bikes that aren't crazy expensive. And I feel like we're kind of getting there with like, like a Dior drivetrain or maybe, the new Eagle 90 stuff is kind of pricey, I guess, but like Dior, maybe those Maven Basses and like, you could kind of expand on that and build out a pretty rad bike out of the box that hopefully isn't crazy expensive.
Yeah, sure. Pretty sweet. I know SRAM today, by the time this comes out a couple of days ago, just came out with their cable actuated drivetrain to wireless conversion kit, which seems silly to me. Like I get
it
just
seems
almost
like the
an
entire
off.
derailleur.
I think the timing is just off though, because the concept is, for people who didn't see it, if you already have the Eagle 70 or 90 drivetrain, which only came out a couple months ago, so there's not that many people in the world that have them. But if you have that and you decide that you want some batteries in your life, you can purchase this kit. And it gives you basically the derailleur body, and then a quick link, and then a charger and battery and all that. You can swap it over and turn your cable actuated stuff into wireless. But it costs $550. And I don't know. I feel like if this came out a year from now, like once lots of people on the market had the cable actuated stuff, and some people might get electronics curious, then they might purchase it. But I think having it come out now seems kind of like too soon. I don't know.
I'm sure Eagle 90's been kind of ready to go, I think, for a long time. So
I'm sure the timing is trying to like move stuff, but I have Eagle 90 and I'm not going to rush out to turn it to batteries. Like
you're notoriously not a battery guy though.
Well,
notorious battery hater Mike Kasimer.
I don't hate them, but I just don't know why. And Eagle 90 works good. And it's like that bike that it's on, it's still on my Raw, and that bike's just turned into the most solid, like grab it and ride bike that I don't have to mess with anything. There's the dropper post also does not use a battery. I had a dropper post battery die the other night, and that was annoying. But then I figured out on the Fox fancy Fox electronic transfer post, there's like a button you can push that gives you an emergency actuation. So you can, like once the battery dies, it gives you a couple little like bonus hits so you can get home without being sad.
It's like the reserve gas tank on the dirt bike.
Yeah.
Sorry. No more dirt bike analogies.
No, that's a good analogy. It's like
that.
that. I was glad because I had like, a few miles to been home and I was like, I'm going to be so annoyed if I have to ride home with my seat all the way down. But then I pushed the little button and it worked. But obviously if it was cable actuated, that wouldn't have happened at all. So
I have the, who makes it? Transax wireless dropper. And when it dies, it just goes up and down. Like it's like stuck as if you're pressing the button.
Yeah. So it just loses.
Honestly, I kind of like that. Wait, can you sit on it at all? No,
it just turns
because it goes down,
sucks.
and then when you're going down, if you're trying to descend, it goes up. It's like the worst of both worlds.
That is the worst of both worlds.
I found that out once on a ride. I was like, this is terrible.
I'd almost rather them like get stuck down and just stay there somehow. Like they get.
Yeah, because then you can at least raise it in the. Yeah. You could raise it in the frame to get a little more.
That's what I mean. Like raise it in the frame to pedal if you have to. But
sorry, back to the SRAM thing. Kaz, I was over there chatting to them last week, and I asked them if they'd have the opposite, like a
electric to cable.
Yeah,
like a downgrade kit.
Exactly. That's what I put. Yeah, in the article I said that like we should make a section in the buy sell so people can just trade. It's like a happy world where the electronics fans can meet up with the Luddites and they can just like hand over their bits and pieces and everybody will come out happy. I think maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it exists. So
yeah, no, I don't think they're going to make one, but I think that's a aftermarket. You can find a buddy that wants electronics and someone. Yeah. We'll make like a meetup in the buy sell and people can switch stuff around.
I'm pro battery.
Are you?
I dig it. Yeah.
I don't mind it. I'm agnostic. I'll put it that way.
I mean, they're fine, but I just know why. I feel like there's
Dario. You are the Switzerland of.
I'm usually not.
Debates.
I'm usually the like weird pirate nation doing things, but yeah.
I've never had. Yeah, I've had maybe good luck with all my wireless stuff. Yeah, and I don't know. I like not having cables and having to deal with those, even though you don't have to do it very often. When you do, it's so easy with like a wireless dropper post and wireless drivetrain to put together a bike with that stuff.
Yeah, it is easy, but the charging is the part I don't like. I just not like. I mean, to be fair, all the batteries do last a long time, but sometimes you have batteries from different brand companies, or like you have the Fox battery and then the SRAM battery, and you go on a road trip and you have to remember a charger. I don't know. It's just like mountain biking can be so much simpler than.
Have you seen there's like watches that charge from movement of your wrist? They got to build that into the
like a gyroscopic.
There's a patent. SRAM has a patent for a solar panel that goes on your water bottle cage that could charge theoretically charge your axis or a fender. Yeah, they take the panel and kind of shape
we're talking.
So something like that. I mean, for bike packing or something. I guess
I think the draw is bigger. Like a watch movement is like, and that's all mechanical too. It's not like it's charging a battery, but it's. I don't know. You could do something with that.
Yeah, well, they definitely like regenerative braking. We can like
your bike definitely shakes around a lot when you're riding it. So maybe.
Yeah,
maybe we can make the tuned mass damper. They can charge
something.
Batteries too. Yeah, that's another. That's another thing that went on the site this week was that tuned mass damper. That Jesse May and Seb tested that out. That's call it the shake weight, but basically it's a weighted spring in essentially a can that mounts most cases at the front of the bike. And I've seen a lot of downhill racers experiment with it. And Seb and Jesse said it maybe works.
I think the conclusion was like, don't buy one. Not because it's bad, but because it's so barely perceivable. It's maybe not worth it.
Yeah, exactly. They did back-to-back laps. And they didn't know which was in which. Like they kind of made a dummy can and then just switched back and forth. And by the end, they weren't really guessing correctly. Like they did guess correctly in some cases, but it wasn't really enough to be like, it's making a noticeable difference.
No.
For the rider, which is
interesting.
Yeah, I like that kind of blind testing. I think that's important. I think there's a lot of
for sure
placebo effect or things that you wouldn't.
It's cool. Brands are trying it and race teams are trying it. Like I think anything at that level, you're just trying to shave milliseconds, right? So,
and in many cases, placebo does work. You know,
But even at the World Cup,
feel good.
But if it is like you look at the winning times, they're like 0.01 seconds or even 0.001 seconds or something. That's where something like this, you might as well install it even if there's a slight chance that it's going to help you. Then why not give it a try? But
I just don't think it's as like profound as some people have said. Like you listen to some of the chatter around those, and people are like, "Oh yeah, like night and day difference. I've never felt more comfortable on the bike." And I think that's clearly a little bullshit. But
kind of like that steering damper I tested earlier this year. Like there is something to it, and I think for the right person in the right scenario. Like there are things to change the way that the bike handles and feels, but I don't think they're they're not so drastic that most people shouldn't shell out the $200 to $500 or whatever the asking price is without really having like a good reason for it or trying them out. Like,
and adding 1.5 pounds to your bike. Like
that too. I mean, it's definitely downhill oriented. Yeah, I don't think your trail bike needs a tuned mass damper. Probably you just. Yeah,
we will certainly will see trail bikes with tuned mass dampers.
I'm excited for it. I go right on the front of their upside down forks, and
exactly.
You can run the O chain with the sidekick hub, and then
there we go.
I will say the O chain. I've talked about it a lot. That O chain is really good though.
Mm-hmm.
You run one, Stefan?
So it's a sidekick.
O chain?
Yeah,
I have never tried one. I would love to.
Yeah, they're really good. Like I was so skeptical, but now I've been using it, and like the one I have, you can turn it on or off. So sometimes I was turning it off just to make sure I'm still not,
you're not crazy.
It. And then it does make a difference.
I've ridden I worked at Forbidden for 4 years, so I've primarily ridden high pivot bikes for the past couple of years, which like kind of tries to do the same thing. But even like some of the racers are running O chains on high pivot bikes. I think on any bike, it's probably makes it feel really awesome.
Yeah, it helps. I mean, if anything, it just helps with like a little bit of chain slap.
Yeah,
quiet bike feels better.
Exactly.
Agreed.
Yeah,
that's that placebo, but it works. It's like if it's not making noise, you feel like you're riding better.
I'm hunting a creek on a bike that I really like otherwise right now, but it's driving me insane. Like it's the bike suddenly season. Is worse. Yeah,
I know. Once it stops raining, the creeks come out because the rain helps lubricate everything.
I know.
Like
when I should just start hosing my bike down before every run.
Yeah,
yeah.
No, it's bad. Maybe one of these podcasts we should do like a how to decreak your bike or like keep your bike not creaky.
Yeah, I feel like Matt was getting into. I thought he had some sort of like how to make your bike quiet thing coming. But yeah, we should do it.
Yeah,
he did that last year. Maybe
they did.
Maybe he's doing another part 2.
Yeah, maybe something.
But I think creeks are
trickier. Yeah, especially when they just reverberate. There's so many times like a headset sounds like a bottom bracket. It just goes through all the tubes in your bike. And
my method is actually to like fully disassemble the bike and put it back together, which sucks. But like, it's the only way I've found to like certainly fix things and just like take it apart, re-grease everything, put it back together. And like, if there's still a creak, something's broken. So you can then like isolate that. But
and certain bikes are more creak prone, or especially ones like even dual link bikes or ones, the ones, the more moving parts, the more likely something will creak and the more tolerances. And some companies that still use little washers mixed in with all the, you get a bearing and then a washer and then the bolt. And then there's just so many little parts from the creak. Yeah, single pivots, hardtails from
hardtails. That's how you keep the noise down.
Then you're the one creaking, but
yeah, exactly. Modern bottom brackets though don't creak as much as they used to. I find, which is nice. Like,
it's true.
Sometimes they do, but
that's a very good point. BB creaking is like kind of a thing of the past, which I'm very happy about.
It used to be very common, and I don't miss it.
Yeah. I've even had a couple of press fit bikes recently, and they've been okay. So
steer tubes too seem to have quieted down a little bit. Like every once in a while you'll get one, or you get the crown
CSU creak. Yeah,
it seems like it's gotten better because there was a run where it's like it just took like half a season and your crown to be creaking. So things are getting better, I think, for the most cases.
100%.
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of in the mechanical section now. We should probably go into some questions. As always, if you go to just go to the bottom of this article and you can call in with your questions. Let's see. What do we have, Eric?
Neville.
Oh, where you at, bye? I was just wondering your opinion. So, let's say you're moving from Newfoundland over to Whistler or Stoneham, and you're going to spend a lot more time riding the lifts. Would you buy a downhill bike, or would you get a long travel enduro bike and throw some rather stout parts on it?
Is this Matt Beer?
You got a trail bike? Yeah. Cheers, lads.
Is that what Matt sounded like before he moved to BC?
Yeah, I think so. I just really hope that's the real accent. I have a feeling it's not, but I hope it is. It's really good if it is.
It's awesome. If you're calling in with questions and you want to do accents, I love
please,
it. Keep it coming.
We're here for it. Just keep them.
But if that is your real accent, that's also awesome.
It's really cool. I like that voice.
Yeah.
So he's moving to Whistler, maybe from Newfoundland, following the path of Matt Beer and his compatriots. I'd say downhill bike for the bike park if you already have a trail bike. It seems easy to me, but
if you're going to live in Whistler proper, I think you definitely want a downhill bike because your trail bike will get destroyed.
Clapped. Yeah.
You're gonna you'll be like, oh, I have it. Yeah, I don't know. People don't have tons of money, which I understand, but you're gonna destroy your trail bike if you're riding the bike park a lot.
Yeah, I'd buy like a cheaper, or like not cheaper, but like a mid-level downhill bike. I wouldn't buy the fanciest thing.
Like,
it's just
like maybe an Iron Horse or something.
Like maybe a 2007 Iron Horse Sunday.
You can do that, but that longevity, like when I had that back in 2007, the number of parts I had to buy from the hardware store to keep that thing running, like the shock hardware on that is made of very tiny pieces that don't last long.
Yeah.
The Iron Horse Sunday is not, maybe the longevity is not going to be strong suit if that's going to be your new downhill bike for the bike park. Like the shock hardware on that is so small. The shop I worked at used to be across the street from the hardware store, so every day I would go over there and I could find new little like steel bolts and trying to find like higher grade bolts so that they wouldn't break and come out.
But you will look cool.
You will look
super cool.
Yeah, the swag points are going to be high.
Yeah,
and when you're trying to establish yourself in BC, coming over from Newfie, you gotta think about that.
Yeah, especially if you take the cranks off and put a 24-inch rear wheel and wear real short shorts, then you could fit in with the.
Yep.
I was gonna say baggy shorts. Anyways.
Oh yeah, I guess we switched. Yeah, now it's baggy. I forgot the 90s are back.
It's jean shorts that go past the knee, but you're still wearing no shirt and a chest protector.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's
wow. I can't wait to be back at the bike park.
Dude, I'm stoked.
We only have a few days. Bike park is this Friday, I think.
But before we move on, I feel like the move would be to buy like a decent trail bike, because the pedaling in Whistler is unreal.
So good. Yeah,
I think you should definitely have like a decent enough trail bike.
I would not want to only own a downhill bike in Whistler.
Yeah, no. And I would had one. He had to say a trail bike. But Eric, what would you do? You're in Squamish, so you're the closest out of all of us geographically to the bike park.
Yeah, so speaking from my personal experience, if you have the space, I'd get like a mid to longer travel trail bike and a downhill bike. I can't remember if he said like only owning one bike, but in my case, I don't have the space for that many different bikes. So I just have like a longer travel enduro bike, like a Meta AM. And that's kind of like the happy balance I found, where it's like it's still light enough that I can actually pedal it around town, like ride all the trails I want to ride. But I also don't feel like I'm destroying it every single day in the bike park.
Yeah.
It definitely depends too, like if you're gonna, buy the bike park pass and live in the bike park every day that you're have free time, or if you're, gonna ride it once or twice a week. Kind of
if you're going full park route, then it's probably a good idea to go downhill bike just for.
Even like couple-year-old like downhill bikes, I feel like you can buy for super cheap, especially in Whistler. They're they're everywhere. So
YSL is stacked with solid downhill bikes right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that think they're going to go a lot, and then they realize they only made it to the bike park a few times, and then they sold them. But we'll enjoy. Hopefully, this person, if you're real and you make it to Whistler, hit us up. We'll do a little bike check and see what she ended up with.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what else we have.
Next, we got Dan.
Hey guys, this is Dan down here in Oregon, and I keep hearing you guys talk about doing 50-hour services or lower services on forks, but I wish you guys would just refer people to the manuals and the charts that show what the proper intervals are, because, like, for example, Fox doesn't even refer to a lower service in their services charts. They want it done at 125 hours or annually, and so I feel like you're setting a lot of people up for just perpetuating like a garbage feeling fork, because if like it's a grip damper, it's going to be circulating fluid in the lowers and you're just never going to purge your fluid out. So really what you should be recommending is full services for most of these people that are doing their own 50s, because by the time they're doing their 50-hour service or their lower service, they probably just need the full meal deal anyways. Anyway, just input from a suspension tech.
Nah, I disagree. Hard disagree there.
Just like, some tri-flow should do it.
Exactly.
No, I think we're just using it as a term. It's not literally a 50-hour or a lower service. But it is,
though.
Just saying,
but also just because Fox's manual doesn't mention the lower service, like you can't tell me that the athletes on the World Cup or Enduro or whatever aren't servicing their fork more than that. Like if and in a 50-hour, yes, 125 is the recommended full service for your fork, which is a full damper rebuild. It probably costs you a couple $100 at a shop. But for the price of some suspension fluid and some basic tools, that 50-hour service does make your fork feel better. Like it doesn't make it feel like garbage, like you said. It does a good, like you're just changing the lower oil, but you're also getting some lube on your wipers, you're cleaning things out, it makes a difference. And I recommend doing it. Like it doesn't.
I think like longevity wise too, it like helps for, preventing the stanchions from wearing out and all that stuff in between the bigger services.
Exactly. But it's just like a good little intermediate step. But I don't think it's true. If someone's gone so long, if it's already close to 125 hours or whatever, you should get it, get the full service, get the full damper rebuild. But because it's so easy, I think it's something that most people should know how to do and just do once in a while. It doesn't hurt your fork,
It's also, I think, like, I don't know, say you're someone who's not super mechanically inclined, but feels confident enough to try doing some interval of service. We'll just say, some amount of hours service to not upset anybody. Most people are going to do that and be like, ah, shit, I don't really want to do this that much, and just take it to a shop. Like, yeah, that's fine. It's not prohibitively expensive, like in the scheme of mountain biking. You already bought some number of thousands of dollars bike. Like, you could probably pony up at some point to get your suspension serviced by a professional. And that's, I think, I
feel like if you ride a lot, you should, whether you do it or a shop does it, you should do a full service, like probably once a year would be.
Yeah, but that's what's recommended, and that is. But like, that's the full damper rebuild though, which most people aren't going to do at home, just because it's kind of a pain. A lot of times you do need certain, special tools. You're pulling it so far apart. But that's where like the lower service is just like a basic thing that I don't think it's. We'll have to. I mean, maybe for next podcast or one down the line or something, we'll just get a call to Fox and see what they say about this. But I'm fairly confident they wouldn't say like, no, you have to wait a year before cracking your fork open. Like, yeah, you can make it feel better in the meantime, like rather than going a year. So. I mean, yeah, thanks for calling in. I don't agree, but yeah, commenters chime in. Let me know if you're doing lower services. But I do think that every once in a while it is helpful. It's basically just like cleaning things out and adding a little bit of fluid in there just to tide it over until you do the full rebuild. Yeah. Yeah, I think that answers it. Hopefully, yeah. It's good to
it wasn't
to
really a question. It was more like
he was scolding us. But sorry, Dan, I'm just going to disagree. But that's okay. Yeah, we have next.
Next is Nate.
Hey, Pinkbike, this is Nate here from the West Coast, and my question is about high pivots. I recently bought a Druid V2, and it's been an awesome bike so far, but I haven't figured out how to rail it on corners. I feel like in a lot of situations, it has a tendency to want to understeer a little bit, so I'm curious whether that's just an inherent trait of high pivots or if it's something that I need to change, whether it's positioning on the bike or different line choice or even shock settings, maybe add some compression damping or something like that. Would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
Stefan.
You the resident high pivot.
How do you do it? How do you ride these things?
How do you ride a high pivot? Well, I think they do take a bit of, like, if you just got a brand new high pivot bike coming from a non-high pivot bike, the rear end is going to be significantly longer and it's going to also grow through corners. So I think in general, just how your weight is distributed on the bike will change, like be quite a bit different to a non-high pivot bike.
Did you find there was a learning curve going back to regular bikes from?
Yeah, a little bit. Like when I started here and started riding shorter bikes, it's different. Like the weight distribution changes, so inherently it's going to be different from bike to bike. I don't know if I have like a catch-all tip for how to corner a Druid, but
it's in the instruction manual. You just got to read it again.
Yeah. It is a different sensation. I find like when with the high pivot bikes, you're more centered in the bike, so it's like, but they are very, I don't know, it's not like a kind of railing a corner like a brat, but you have tons of grip, I guess, if that makes sense.
It almost feels like you're pushing more in the center of the bike rather than feel like with a shorter bike, you kind of get the shorter bike is easier to get the back end to kind of like scoot out or kind of like slap around, where the high pivot
you can kind of like pivot around the rear wheel a bit more on like a shorter chainstay bike, whereas the Forbiddens and like longer growing bikes like that, they're looking for grip, like your weight's going to be pushing on both tires evenly and it's going to have a longer wheelbase through corners. So I mean, in general, that longer, I feel like it's a bit just like rider style and getting used to the change.
Give it some time.
Yeah, he might be like, if I was him, since it's a new bike, maybe look at your old bike and kind of see what the geometry is like and see how the setup is similar or different. Like maybe something, even just a little stem length change or something could kind of shift his weight distribution, and then just find a trail that has some sequential turns, like some tight 4 or 5 tight turns, and just kind of session it. I feel like just to kind of figure out how it, like what you're feeling, and then maybe you can make some changes. Like he was saying, maybe you need to start with the shock setup just in general. Like doesn't matter the suspension design, just kind of make sure you got the right amount of sag and your rebound and compression settings are pretty dialed. But then just probably some practice. But or go to a bike park too. Like we were talking about bike parks. If there's a get some laps in and see if you can kind of unlock it, because it does take a little bit of time. Like with any new bike, high pivot or not. But I think
probably it's most likely just where he's centering his weight on the bike and just kind of adjusting that slightly, probably back to kind of be more centered, and then trusting.
It can be counterintuitive. You're like trusting that the front wheel will grip even if you're shifting your weight back. I haven't ridden the V2 Druid, but spent a lot of time on V1 and found that being good about braking points was useful on that bike, just because I found that like where you were braking would interfere with how much the back end grew. So like getting your braking done and then hitting a corner is always a good method, but like felt more important on that bike. I don't know that that's inherent to like a high pivot in specific, but like anything, it's like the less variables happening to the bike at once, the better.
But isn't V2 is a totally different suspension layer?
It is. Isn't it? I know. I'm just saying, like, if you're like dragging brake through corner, it's probably still going to fuck with your like suspension.
I love dragging brake. I'm such a brake dragger. It's like
I like skidding through corners.
Just full skid.
Just like let the rear wheel just drift up and over the top of the berm, just shave them off. Never do that.
Hopefully that, I don't know if that answers this question.
No, but focus on your weight distribution.
Just
think more.
And just ride the bike more. You'll get used to it.
Cool. I think we'll just do three questions today. Send in some more. We'll answer them. Maybe one of these days we can just do a whole episode. It's been a little while, so maybe not next week, but maybe in a few weeks we'll have to do the full all questions all the time. Big roundup. I do like that everyone's sending them in. We like hearing them. So thanks for listening. We'll be back next week. Got some exciting World Cup coming up, so everybody enjoy spectating the races.
Do your fantasy league.
Fantasy league, yes, do that. We'll be back next week. Thanks for listening.
Peace.
Bye.